All right, welcome to Health a Second Opinion. Dr. Chad McDill here with you, continuing a discussion that is never going to end, and that's going to be how to create more life for you and your family and how to help guarantee results that keep you in alignment with those things that you want. And that is, most of us would like to have more health. We'd like to have better quality, and we'd like to have better quantity of life. And so in helping people get focused on that, I think that that's been one of the most frustrating things lately as a doctor, trying to help people in this last part of 2020 here, is that everybody's just sick and tired and fed up of dealing with this situation that the world is in. And it's just, the undeniable truth that we're all waiting for something to change. And the reality is that there's nothing to wait for. What needs to change is us. And what needs to change is always us. Our cumulative survival potential is based on how adaptable our body is. While exhausting and completely frustrating this year has been, it has been an exercise in commitment to principle. For me and for my family, as we have had to deal with the lack of principle and science in our own families. It's been exhausting, and I know it has for so many of you who are also trying to bring some truth and principle in the fact that if you look at the people in our families, mine included, that are the most scared and the most isolated and the most, just absolutely intoxicated with the amount of media that they're consuming, such that they're overly drunk with a flood of negative information captivating them on their couch. They are also the least committed to the solution. The solution that they are the solution. And the truth that those that come in contact with the virus and have no symptoms yet test positive are, quote, asymptomatic, quote, carriers. That does not mean transmitters, by the way, in which I'll get to that in a minute. That they are also, there's this difference between those people who then, another step better, lay in the bed next to the person who is sick and expressing symptoms, which are just their body's adapting to this virus and fighting it. Then the difference between that person who never gets it, never even tests positive, even though they laid within 2 feet for 2 weeks of this person for 8 hours a night while making sure that they were okay. The difference in that person and the person who dies is the person, their immune system. And those that are the most frustrated and the ones that are the most captivated and the ones that are the most intoxicated, drunk on their mass media fixation, are the ones who are least committed to themselves and have made the least amount of change in their lives and have not gotten off the couch and done the very things that they know would change their blood work 120 days later, because it is a fact. It is a known scientific fact. And it is the reason that doctors have been operating this way since we've had blood work analysis, that in 120 days, the living blood cells that are pumping through your body, that also includes some of the white blood cells, will have been regenerated. Your neutrophil count, which is on your blood work, natural killer cell count, that is affected and determines your Th1 T cell immunity arm of your immune system that fights viral infections, will be different 120 days to the measurable amount and your habits and your lifestyle and your mindset that determines your habits and lifestyle for the previous 120 days will determine your immune system. And it is absolutely mind-boggling that I have to endure my own family and my extended family who continue to go to great lengths to isolate and quarantine and actually be robbed of the very thing that they're supposedly living for, which is interaction with their family that they supposedly so much value. But yet that they will not get off the couch and change their habits and their lifestyles and do one thing. This rant is completely inspired by my conversation with my dad today. On my way to work, I couldn't take it anymore after a conversation that we had last night. I called him and I was informing him of how viruses work and how the bell curve and how the viral infections go and why asymptomatic and why. Let's touch base on that, because so many people will sit around and still believe this lie that has never been dealt with, a double-blind placebo-controlled study where they put a bunch of people who were asymptomatic in a room for, let's say, 8 hours within 6 feet across from a table, breathing directly upon people who did not have virus and didn't have antibodies, and they collected these groups and they knew that they were, in these groups. They put them face to face and then see how many were infected, if any. The answer would be 0 or 1, because that person who was in the study actually ended up getting sick, and they were just a few days before they started really getting sick, and so there was this massive viral load that was in them. And so, because the virus, if it's not going to accelerate up the bell curve to produce enough virus to cause coughing and fever and symptoms and all of these things that produce the expulsion reaction, which is our bodies just adapting to the environment, to getting rid of this virus, these symptoms of a fever. Did you know? I mean, and so many people out there, again, frustrating that Americans, supposedly media is trying to save lives, is actually dropping the ball by not letting people know that the reason you don't take the fever reducing medications with this is because until your fever reaches 101, your activated T cells, your neutrophils, don't get activated to their maximum capacity, sending this massive alarm to them that says, whoa, go into high gear, go find those virally infected cells and kill them, gobble them up, and come back and teach my body how to create more B cells and more antibodies. It doesn't happen effectively until the fever reaches somewhere between 100 and 101. So if you're suppressing that immune system and you're suppressing that fever, boom, this thing can get out of control. And so when I'm listening to these things and I'm talking to my dad and I was explaining this stuff about asymptomatic carriers and all of these things, and I said, so what are you doing this morning? He says, well, I just got done with breakfast. Oh, really? What'd you have for breakfast? Oatmeal. What's in the oatmeal? Well, whatever you put in there, bananas and, put some raisins and things like this in there. That's what I sweeten it with. Wait a second. Forgive me, Dad. I guess you can, you can press charges if you want, I guess. The fact is he's diabetic. What is a diabetic doing eating oatmeal for breakfast and putting things in it that increase the sugar content, which everyone knows, or well, hopefully everyone knows. Again, why isn't mass media talking about the fact that if you're consuming over 50 grams of carbohydrates in a single setting and you spike your blood sugar, you suppress the white blood cell activity for the next 5 hours? Why isn't that on the news? Why are you hearing about it on Facebook or wherever you're hearing this, from YouTube? Or why are you hearing about this on your local TV channel instead of the national TV channel? And why am I so animated and so frustrated right now to the point of just wanting to break out into a sweat? Is because it's my own father is absolutely denying real science and continuing to have bad habits as a diabetic, and has for the last year. Think about it, folks. We've known about this since everybody's been in panic mode since March. And how many 120-day cycles have gone by? How much better could his blood work be? How much better would his immune system be? How much better would every part of his body be? His cardiovascular health, his weight, his stress levels, his cortisol, his inflammatory markers, his A1C. How much better would they be if he would listen to the reality that your habits determine your outcomes? And that if you're going to eat those kind of breakfasts in the morning, then maybe you should stay in quarantine. Maybe you should just sit on the couch. But if you'll actually get out and change something about yourself, remember, if to change the world, we must change ourselves. And one of the biggest problems out there today is that we're living with this kind of apathy, but we're changing the face of the world. And we're changing the face of America, and we're crushing jobs, and we're crushing incomes, and we're crushing households, and we're crushing the very fabric of society because people are listening to bad science and they're listening to propaganda instead of the truth and the principles that govern healthcare. And they're not getting off the couch. They're not exercising. They're not eating better. They're not reducing their sugar content. Did you know that you can increase your white blood cell activity by going out and getting 30 minutes or more of moderate to high intensity training? Whoa, why isn't that out there? Because that might actually make a difference instead of provide more people to sell some vaccine to. You know what? The difference and the reason that, Clemson game, I was watching football and literally there's the guy that was out of it because he had tested positive. Their quarterback was on the sideline, standing there, hamming it up, laughing, cutting up, wearing a mask, pretending that mask, which wasn't, an N95, and he's just wearing some surgical mask, and he's out there and pretending that that's going to be a possible filter. And then every time he talks to one of his players, he pulls it down and he leans in, and they all get right up each other's faces, and they're laughing and cutting up because they know he still feels good. He's still fine. I bet if you'd asked him and given him said, you have permission if you want to go play, he'd have been, looked like Superman changing into his gear to get out there and go play for his team because of how well he felt, even though he tested positive. Folks, the difference between him and the person who dies is the health of the host. So what are people doing to increase the health of the host? And when I asked that question, I'm so inspired today by the call that I got to be on a little while ago. Thank you, Max Living. Thank you so much for the wonderful calls that we get to be on twice a week that keep the fuel burning so that we can be the lights to the world in our communities to bring health and truth and principle to people. So that it says that, what they were talking about was, what are you committed to? And then who are you committed to? And I want to add, is that you? Are you committed to you? If you're not committed to you, then how can you be committed to the family that you're supposedly committed to? What are we doing to change ourselves? I'll tell you what I've been doing for the last 6 weeks. We've been giving, and when I say I talk about my team. The fact that Anna stayed here the same amount of hours that I did, and sometimes later. The fact that my wife, who's been amazing and loving and very supportive of the fact that for the last 6 weeks until like 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday, I'm here at the office teaching a master class. Why? Because the people that are in my office deserve to understand how the immune system really works. What determines white blood cell activity? Then what determines your susceptibility to cancer? Because you know what? It's October still, folks. I know nobody's thought about it. There haven't been as many pink ribbon campaigns and all these other things. But in my brain, it says I've been indoctrinated that over the last 40 years of my life, that it's October. It's awareness, cancer awareness. So when I say to myself, what can I do? I say that I can hold a class for an hour a night, and any person, the people that I invited, and yes, it was invitation only, because the people that have already shown commitment to change and to principle and to wanting to be better deserved to be in a room unencumbered by the mass out here that say that, well, a Twinkie is the same as an apple. And all of the bad science and all the bad propaganda that is allowing our whole world in this America to change. And for the last 6 weeks, we have spent an hour talking about how nutrition and what are the anti-angiogenic foods. What are the foods that shut down the blood vessel formations that go to feed cancer? What are the foods that shut down the immune system? What are the foods that build up the immune system? How can we exercise to build our immune systems so that we can become fearless and that we can stand for health freedom, that we can tell people with perfect honesty, truth, and commitment to the principle that 120 days from now, you will be measurably blood work different. What will it be? Who are you committed to? Why are you committed? What are you working for? And if it is to get out and you're just ready to be done with this, and we're so over it and everybody's so tired, but I don't see anybody else in their parking lot 3 or 4 days a week out here like I am working out. And I see people driving by and they're like, what in the world is this dude doing out here? Why is he running? And shouldn't he have a mask on if he's out there? He's breathing hard. He might be spreading virus. Come on. I mean, hopefully there are more people. But what are we talking about, folks? Are we committed to these things? And for the last 6 weeks, we've had people pouring in. We were sitting in this room in here. At one point, there was 28 people in the room. And we had weeks of that where we've got these people gathered around, committed to going home to their families to make changes. And so what's some of the results? How about one person being able to get off a ton of medication and come drop it into the drug jug and get rid of a bunch of things? What about one of the 6-week people who's been in here? This guy has a family, has a couple of kids. He has a wife. He's got a full-time job. And he's decided that he's waking up at 5:30 in the morning. And he's been doing it for the last 3 weeks. And he's already committed. Man, I know after all this stuff you've been talking about, we eat pretty good. I do these things pretty well. And the one thing that I've not been doing is I've not been working out. And I basically need to lose a whole human being, he said. He said, I'm carrying an extra human. I'm waking up at 5:30 in the morning and he's doing max T3 workouts. Why? To shed the extra human. What's he committed to? He's committed to himself. He's committed to a better life for his kids. He wants to, one of his kids is going to be taking jujitsu, and he wants to be able to get out there and take classes with him. Why? Because he values the relationship and the building of that with his child. That's his why. That's what he wants to do. That's his commitment. Have another young lady who's now decided she's vision casting. She's looking forward into the future, and she's saying to herself, I want to be better. And so I'm going to be on the advanced plan for first half of 2021. And some of you are asking, what is the advanced plan? And so it's a whole food vegetable diet, mainly consisting of anti-inflammatory foods only, that limits the amount of grains to none, and the amount of sugars from high fructose or high glycemic index fruits down to 0. And so then it's a way of eating. It's a system of eating that's in the Max Living Nutrition or Align Your Health book. And so she's going to do this, and she's going to be exercising regularly, and she's going to be doing this for the next 6 months. You know, what are these people getting out of being here? What I want to know is, why aren't other doctors doing this? Well, about probably 75% of the max living chiropractors around the country are doing it. But why not other chiropractors? Why not other MDs? Why not other DOs? Why not other whatever, nurses? Why aren't we holding national televised programs? Instead of just talking about what's wrong, how about we talk about the fact that if the immune system works, and this is one of the things that really chapped me, the fact that we have this general who's in charge of Operation Warp Speed, and he is literally saying on national television on 60 Minutes that he's scared that people won't get the vaccine after he's gone to the trouble of what he's predicting $26 billion to deliver this to America. And his worst fear is that people won't get the vaccine, and that just because they've had the virus, that they don't think they need it. Well, wait a second. Hold on there, cowboy. The reality is that if you have antibodies and you've had it, then you have immunity and you don't need the vaccine. Or is any of this real? Like, I mean, because if you're basing this on science and it's the science of the immune system, then antibodies to the vaccine is the benchmark to which we say you are immune. And isn't that what the vaccine is meant to try to elicit, is antibody production? And if the person has it and then has antibodies to it, why would they need a vaccine? Well, it might be a little newer, really. So that vaccine was isolated in viruses that was maybe back in March, and they've been building it and generating these mRNA vaccines, which is the first one that'll ever be out. We don't know the safety and efficacy of it, and we don't know how effective it really is, and is there going to be more injuries? Remember, Moderna, theirs has 20% serious injuries, side effects. Look it up. So what's Pfizer? We hear about their effectiveness, but have they shown their injury rate? These are questions. They're popular, they're wonderful, they're amazing questions that need to be answered. And here we have Operation Warp Speed General making statements that scare people into making decisions, and he's talking bad science. Well, you know what? His thing, well, I'm not a scientist, but if you're going to be the one who's the point man, who's out there telling people and delivering this, well, then you'd better have the right science, because you're promoting something. I mean, it'd be like putting, a second grader out there. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. Folks, the truth is our actions determine our outcomes. If our actions and our personal choices change and we eat better, we exercise better. When we exercise better, we do it in a way, like I taught in this last 6-week class for an hour a night for all of my patients who were invited to be there. If we do all of these things, then we affect cortisol better. We lower cortisol levels, which boosts our immune system. We do all of these things to reduce anxiety and depression, because we know suicide's up. We know anxiety's up. We know all of these things are going on. We understand that more children are having problems and having behavioral issues and all of these things. We understand that the whole country is in panic mode. And if we're not changing the personal choices that people are making, then what are we committed to? If we're not having the conversations around the dinner table of the reality of how these things work, then what are we committed to? We're committed to the outcome. It's like my dad, who's sitting around eating oatmeal while he's diabetic. Absolutely infuriating. And I love that guy, and I want him to be better, but instead I'm gonna be isolated and sit on the couch and be absolutely enamored and drunk on these mass media fed, bad science, political things that are just being put out on the TV instead of actually doing something to change something. And if that's you, we have to have a meeting here, right? Why isn't your doctor talking to you and helping you and supporting you in this way? And if you're not a part of my office and you're not a part of another Max Living office, then you don't have the right doctor. If you're walking around, with a list of all of these things, and you have headaches and migraines and fibromyalgia and heartburn, and you've got constipation and you've got anxiety and cholesterol problems, and you've got all these things going on here, they're not a list of symptoms to be treated. They're not things to be managed. They're not normal. They're warning signs that your body's not functioning right. They're also an indicator of the fact that you probably have a suppressed immune system too. And then you're worried. People are worried right now with due worry. I am not discounting the fact that some people should be very scared, but 99% of us, that's the reality, 99% survival rate, folks. 99% of us should think, man, that would really stink. And that would be painful and it would be sucked for 2 weeks, but it would. The reality is that would be bad. But this list of stuff isn't stuff to be managed. It's a list of things that says your body's not functioning right. What are you doing to fix your body? Step one, make sure that this brain up here isn't being overfed with mass media propaganda. Number two, make sure that the mindset says that this brain should be connected to the rest of the body to control those organs properly. And if you haven't been checked by a Max Living chiropractor and you don't know if your body is subluxated, then you've missed step two. Step two is get a checkup on your spine and your nervous system and make sure that the very nerve system that controls the rest of every other system, including your immune system, is functioning properly. If it's not healthy, get it fixed. As a matter of fact, here you go. Let's see here. Can I produce this thing right here? Aha. There's the banner. There's the phone number you need to dial. If you're in Chattanooga, if not, go to maxliving.com. Google Max Living near me, find the nearest chiropractor, go get a checkup. Don't go by yourself. Take your whole family. Everybody's concerned. If you love your kids, take them with you. They have a spine too. Number three, change what you're eating. More vegetables, more low glycemic index fruits. Get rid of all the junk food and get rid of and cut all the sodas. Step three, that's a good summary. Step four, go ahead and start exercising every day. It's not a weight loss plan, it's a lifestyle. Step five, minimize the amount of toxins coming in. Get rid of all your other bad products and go to Beauty Counter. Look up Megan McDill, Beauty Counter representative. If you're in Chattanooga area, if you're in another area, go Google Beauty Counter. Replace all your products, minimize your toxicity, save your own life. With all the love and respect, I'm tired of watching people go to great lengths to quarantine and not one dang thing to change themselves. You deserve better. Your family deserves better. And I'm sick of tolerating the conversation. God bless you. I love you. I respect and I hope that you will make the changes that will make a difference in your life. See you next week.